Illuminati programming that's been developed over the centuries and millennia.
That's what I thought. I wondered about who was programming them.
Well, that information or that programming initiated eons ago when this planet was colonized, and it morphed into what we have now over the millennia. It's really the same thing, new version. Okay? Now, what else do they do to people who maybe are necessary but not programmable? You're seeing it happen right today, is on the news weeks ago. What are they doing to those other people? Chips. Putting chips in them. The chips can override mind pattern and tap directly into the nervous system and manipulate brain waves. We're going to learn how that works tomorrow when we look at frequencies and hertz levels and when we do the parts on technology. They also have created viruses and bacteria over the last 50 years through experimentation that they've injected into people to see what results it would have on the genetics, on the mind, and on the body. That finally led into what we now have as the flesh-eating virus. That was the culmination or result of all these testings of viruses and bacteria on people. It's a perfect weapon to eliminate people. Originally, the test subjects that they used to use were derelicts, prisoners, orphans, homeless people, drug addicts, or generally anyone who would be considered expendable or who would not be missed. That was the original test subjects within the last 100 years. Illuminati, Committee of 300, and those who have the proper genetics, as we just mentioned, their programming has been generational. Meaning, if you're programmed and you have blonde hair and blue eyes, it is more than likely that your ancestors have been programmed in the last few hundred years in your genetic family history. And it's passed on. Because as we're going to learn, that programming actually becomes part of your genetics and can be passed on to your descendants. Makes programming a lot easier that way.
Regarding viruses and bacteria, would you say most of the viruses and bacteria that are pathogenic are just part of our mind pattern being manifested, or how much of it was actually developed, like smallpox, like polio, bubonic plague, all those? How much of that was really genetically created?
Most of it was genetically created. Remember that human life on this planet is not natural. And therefore, this is actually a hostile environment to your body. This planet is dangerous to your health, literally. You did not originally come from here, so it's alien to you. So the viruses and bacteria that exist here, and microplasms that exist here, can cause great damage to your body. And so that can be used as a weapon. If you take that and you enhance it, change the genetics, as in the AIDS virus, for example, then you have a tremendous weapon that can be used against large groups of people. So here's a clue about programming and diseases, etc., that are artificially created. So they take what's naturally there and they enhance it. They take your own mind pattern and use it against you. So in effect, you are a weapon against your own self. And there's some terminology that we need to learn before we go on. And here's a word that is not in the dictionary. Cryptocracy. Now, who speaks Greek?
Secret society.
Very good. the Illuminati like to call themselves the cryptocracy, the secret society. This can also be not only society, but government or governing body. Now here's something that you don't know. Maybe you do know, but I'll tell you anyway. It's part of history, and you can actually find it out on your own, but it's not taught in school, and it will not be in a textbook. Now, state of emergency meant what? It meant, number one, they could levy federal taxes on the population to raise money for the war effort. It also meant that certain acts were initiated by the government for national security purposes against the enemy. Basically what that means is they can do anything they want to the population under the guise of national security. They can come into your home, they can spy on you, they can kill you if they suspect you of something. It's exactly what the Homeland Security Office can do now. Yes. And then what they did, in 1947, the only problem was in 1945, when the war supposedly ended, they just forgot to rescind this. Just slipped their mind. And it still exists, which is why federal income tax is allowable. Federal income tax is a special law. It is not a federal law. It's a special law. And in 1947, they created the National Security Act, which in effect overthrew the democracy of the United States. It basically invalidated the Constitution. It meant that for the purposes of national security, they can do anything they want. Take your home, take your children, whatever. Part of mind control and programming. Keep the population insecure and fearful, and when that happens, you will know that you're controllable. If you're insecure and in fear, you will do anything that is told to you to save you. What else happened in 1947 that kind of gave a little push of fear into the public? Say it loud, please. Roswell. 1947, the Roswell incident in New Mexico, which basically gave the population the idea that there was an alien presence on the earth that we could not defend against. And they said right in the newspaper, front page, Air Force captures flying disc. And it's from outer space. Next day, it became a weather balloon. That's how they play with the mind games. Put something in your head and say, oh no, it's something else. What does that do to your mind pattern? It fractures your mind pattern. Well, is it this? Is it that? They said this, but it was that. Confusion, doubt, split, control. Roswell incident was staged. That was not a natural event. It was a staged event.
Also does something else. If they shift into it's a weather balloon, you still have that fear there of something. It doesn't go away. It's just
right, it's always there under the surface. Exactly. And then from that point on, there was a UFO craze till this day. What else happened in 1947 that is not ever publicized, but you can look it up in military records? Anybody know? Helga, you might know.
Sure.
I'm serious.
I'm not going to tell you I was told from them to tell you.
Probably. People who make jokes like that are actually telling the truth. Project Paperclip. Yeah. Paperclip to bring in the Nazi scientists who were involved in the mind control in the concentration camps. But something else happened also involving military and Germans.